Welcome to Podadelphia. My name is Dave DiOrio. You can find me on Twitter at fat_lobster. And I'm joined by a guy who finds himself in the middle of a co-host controversy. What's up, Gene? Gene. Are you there, Gene? Can you hear me, Gene? All right, Gene's having some technical difficulties.
I hear you, but you're very slow.
Oh man, well this one's starting off sure to be a banger of a show tonight. So let's see, Gene, are you with us now? live broadcasting, folks. This is what you're gonna get. Gene, signal me when you're when you feel like you're totally connected. I'll just I'll drop you off the stream for now. So yeah, welcome to Podadelphia. We have actually a lot going on this week. We have quarterback controversy in Philadelphia. We have a head coach fired for the Flyers, and we have quite the soccer game to talk about that went down on Sunday at Subaru Park. So where should we begin? I guess we'll start with the Union because, Gene and I actually went down to the game on Sunday to check it out. And I got to say, learning the day before that we were going to have 11 players out due to COVID or COVID protocols, it certainly raised some eyebrows. And it's really hard. It was hard for me to understand going into that day how this game could even possibly be played. We went through an entire year watching seasons get delayed, individual games get delayed, MLB games got delayed. Just as recently as a few weeks ago, or actually a couple of weeks ago, a Flyers Islanders game got delayed because the Islanders had a significant amount of players that were unable to participate in the game. So that game got delayed. So you mean to tell me that an Eastern Conference Finals of a growing sport to have 11 players, that's a starting team, 11 players out of the lineup due to COVID, you're not going to postpone that game? You're going to make that game essentially nothing more than a formality and give a team an advantage like that to just sort of waltz into a championship game in a sport that you're growing, and you're trying to convince a nation that you're a viable fifth sport in this country? I think Gene's back. Let's see. Hey, Gene, how you doing? Got a good connection now?
I think so. I think I figured it out. I don't know what the hell's wrong with my setup here, but we'll keep working on it. So
basically, I was when you guys aren't here, I'm here alone. I go into like rant mode.
Yeah,
so
I caught the tail end of that.
Yeah. Like how, it was like we were just like here in Philadelphia. I mean, it's not like it's small market.
Mm-mm.
You're just starting to convince a big market that you're a viable fifth sport. You're not a joke. You're here. You're legitimate. You have a footprint in this country. And then you pull something like this, and it reminds everyone, oh yeah, soccer in the United States of America is a joke.
Here is, I don't know if you want to call this like sort of like a hot take or whatever, but it is a major, major problem that they are allowing international play to continue sort of in the way that it has always been. All of these other leagues, professional leagues, are sort of bubbling. And I understand maybe you can't bubble for international play. But, I implore, I guess, FIFA or whoever is regulating this whole run up to the World Cup. Like, let's really seriously think about holding maybe a regional tournament or trying a different method of getting these teams sorted out to get into that tournament, because it's not just what's happened to the union. This has been a global problem where players go off to play internationally, especially these guys who are going into hot spots like South Africa with their teams, and they're playing in a match or two over the course of a week, and they come back and they spread it across their entire team. And more importantly for MLS, I understand your protocols, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have followed the protocols, but why didn't they consider rescheduling the match after they could get clearance for the players to be able to at least field your regular team? I don't know. Was there some sort of protest by NYCFC that said, no, we have to play it on Sunday or else we're not going to play? I don't know. I don't understand why, with things being sort of unprecedented, this is your Eastern Conference semifinal or final. Why aren't you looking at it and saying, well, if we push to Tuesday, maybe we can get more people? Are you worried about the gate receipts? Because those tickets were sold. And you can just say, hey, the game's Tuesday night. Come if you can. You don't have to refund tickets if you're still holding the game. I don't understand the need to be like, well, we've got to put these guys into protocol.
Well, there's a couple of things, because there was a rumor going around that this all stemmed from like Andre Blake's birthday party or something, which was totally debunked.
Yep.
Bullshit. That was weeks before. They played a game since then. And
there were other players that were there that were not in the protocol.
Right. And credit where credit is due in this situation. Shout out to Crossing Broad and Kevin Kincaid, who was the only person that I saw when I was combing the internet for more information, who actually troubled himself to do any real research and digging into what actually went down. And it sort of unearths that the union players didn't violate any league protocol.
Right.
They didn't. I mean, they did league sanctioned events, and part of playing in the MLS, part of the reason why these guys play in the MLS is to get exposure for their national clubs, to be able to go and play in these other leagues and use the MLS as a stepping stone. So it's actually good for the MLS to have these players go out and do that. So you shouldn't penalize them when they come back being an ambassador for your friggin' league, to come back and penalize them for their home club.
Right. And I mean, in this, from what I understood, from what Kevin Kincaid reported, is it was, there was a player that had gone over to play in a tournament or play in a couple of qualifiers in Africa. I think he played in 2 different games, one of which I think was in South Africa. And members of that team got COVID. And we know, if you've watched the news in the last week and a half, that South Africa is a really hot spot right now for this variant. And people that were in this protocol, these were guys that were vaccinated. And this new variant is showing up with people that have the vaccine with positive tests. Being vaccinated does not mean you are immune. You will not get COVID. It just means that you are less likely to have severe symptoms and die. You're less likely to be hospitalized. But it could mean that you do show up with a positive test. And much to your point, these were players that were, this is a player that was doing something, representing his country and representing MLS, comes back, and the league just doesn't say, well, yeah, we have sort of these protocols in place, but let's really seriously look at this outbreak and say, is this going to be a fair representation of our league to put both of these teams out there as currently constructed? Now, my caveat being, the union team that did go out there and play on Sunday played a hell of a game. I can't say that there was anybody that I would have not that I thought was not playing up to the level that they needed to play, or that there was a glaring talent disparity between New York City and the Union. But to be like, on the other hand, they were literally missing 75% of their starting defense and their MVP caliber goaltender. You can't tell me that that does not impact that game, considering it went down to the 87th minute before that goal that was to take the lead was scored.
Well, I mean, if we want to talk about the actual X's and O's of the game, it just came down to the fact that there was literally no bench. Literally no bench. Like, that starting 11 had to play the full 90, and NYCFC gets to bring in like $1 million substitutes off the bench.
When we saw them use at least 4 of them in the second half.
Yeah, and it's just, fresh legs versus someone who's been running for an hour and a half.
You've almost swapped out your entire team against tired legs.
It catches up. And, I mean, yeah, sure. They put up a great fight. But everyone, I mean, like, you knew walking into that stadium that the Union weren't going to win that game. I mean, they weren't going to win that game.
They should have just played the Rocky theme literally through the entire.
I mean, at that level, I mean, but like, and honestly, like, at that level, it's a game of inches.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game of centimeters. And to take out 11 players, 11 available players, including the league's best goaltender and really solid defenseman. I mean, like, you're just not going to win that game. And it's MLS
you're without the player
held that game knowing what the result was going to be. And don't let them fool you. A New York soccer team in the final, where there's a huge soccer market in New York, is much more beneficial to MLS viewership than a Philadelphia team. Like, I get that there's like growing enthusiasm in the Delaware Valley for the Union, but by leaps and bounds, a New York team is much better for MLS in the long run to be in the final than the Union. And as much as MLS has carved itself into the sports landscape in this country by finding small market teams that don't have a huge professional sports footprint, they're much happier seeing a New York team in there at the end of the day.
And that's frustrating. It's frustrating that for a lot of reasons, it felt like, and I am not usually one to buy into conspiracy theory, but I mean, there's just way too many indicators that this decision was not made in the interest of having the truest representation of the two teams that were competing for that spot in the final. There's just no way that you could consider that an even match, a fair match. And, there's something to be said, and I don't know if this is, I'd like to believe this, but I can think back to times when I was playing in youth sports, and we had similar situations. I remember specifically when I was a kid in junior high school, and there was a basketball team where, this is a little bit of a different situation, but we showed up. We were the home team, and there was like 10 of us that had showed up for the game, and the other team showed up, but they only had 4 players. So,
did like one of your guys have to go over and play?
2 of our guys went over and played for them so we could play the game. And, we agreed that, the game would be a forfeit, but, in the interest of sportsmanship.
But you're playing youth sports, dude.
I am. But what I'm saying is, there has to be some level of, if you can have that level of sportsmanship with kids, there should be a level of this is a game where there are certain unspoken things.
Gene, is your argument that New York should have given us like 2 defensemen?
No, my argument is that the game.
I'm trying to follow.
My argument is the game should have been played after they could have cleared at least half of those players. I'm not saying they all would have cleared, but we're talking probably a matter of a day or 2 to get those test results back that were to meet the protocol.
No, if it was a result of a of players playing in league sanctioned approved events. There should have been they should have played the game when everyone was able to return, or a 10-day protocol, or 2 negative tests, or something should have come back that said, like, it would be like the Jaguars and the Dolphins go play in London because the league told them to. I mean, like, that's an extreme example, because it's certainly not like these players were instructed to go play for their national teams or whatever. But and then they came back and said, "Oh, sorry, you have to forfeit the next game because you guys, too many of you caught COVID while you were at London being ambassadors for our league."
Yeah. No, I think that is a very good example, and the NFL. It's amazing that the NFL hasn't had a bigger problem than they have had so far.
I don't know. It's a joke. And then, I don't know where Jim Curtin, I don't know where his politics are with COVID as they relate to COVID. I know he's a pretty liberal dude, but he had some interesting post-game comments. Did you read any of these, Gene?
The one that sticks out is I remember saying, he just felt bad for the healthy guy. I think he said, like, the healthy players that were sitting at home, and sort of emphasized healthy.
Yeah, he said, I feel bad for, there's 11 healthy guys that couldn't play. He also said, I'd imagine if every person that walked into our stadium today got tested, I would just say there'd be a decent percentage that unknowingly have it as well. It's complicated. I'm not a scientist. I defer to scientists, so don't get me wrong. I'm about as progressive and open-minded as anyone. But I think at the same time, I think as new things come in, we have to adapt and adjust like we all have.
Right.
I don't have the solution, so please don't let this run some idiot piece on Fox News or some idiot piece on CNN. Keep me out of that, please. But we're all trying to do the best we can, and sometimes it works out well, and sometimes it doesn't. We had 11 guys that are healthy to play a soccer game that aren't here because they have a version of the sniffles. So it sounds like Jim Curtin was like, yeah, they got COVID, but they could play, so they should be able to play.
Right.
Like, they're vaccinated, they have COVID, let them play. That seems to me to be like a pretty
they can't clear this variant yet, but
well, that seems to me to be a little bit risque.
It is certainly somebody that's he's making a stand. He's not shying away from the question. He's letting his sort of opinion be known. And I imagine that if he was that candid in a press conference, and he's usually fairly close to the vest, that in private he must have been livid. I can't even imagine what it was like for him, the lead up to all of this, having to deal with, having to make these decisions and find these guys that he was going to play, and know that he was going to have basically himself handcuffed going into the game, that he was going to have 11 guys and they were just going to have to get through it.
But it kind of brings up an interesting question, right? Like, are we starting to move into an era of COVID where if someone has COVID, it's just, okay, they have COVID. Like, okay, you're sick, but like, you can still function. You don't have to go into bubble wrap. I mean, are we getting into that zone where it's like, you're vaccinated, I'm vaccinated, you have COVID, you don't have symptoms. Can we play sports together?
Yeah, that's the thing, is I think that I would like us to get to that point, but I don't know that, things have gotten with this particular virus so scary, and I don't know if it was just because there was no way to fight it for so long, that it's just sort of the drumbeat has been, if you have it, you have to be avoided at all costs.
Right.
And maybe as this thing sort of mutates and changes, maybe, yeah, sure, it's going to be more virulent. You can catch it easier, but also it's going to be less likely to cause severe illness. I think we don't know yet, especially if it's literally just this variant that's just been sort of identified within the last couple of weeks. But I think that eventually, if we're going to progress into a normalcy, there is not going to be an elimination of a virus like COVID, especially clearly as it's mutating so much. It's not going to be like smallpox where it's just going to vanish. And nobody will ever get it again. So eventually we're going to have to be like, yes, we all have this certain amount of immunity, and,
I mean, that's a great question that he brings up. If they tested everyone who was at Subaru Park that day, were there people there that didn't know they have it that would
I
have
mean, just
tested
just
positive
math tells you that there had to have been.
and just would never know?
Right.
Just never know.
And
It's like you had
maybe
it, now
we'll
you
never
don't, and
know.
you never knew
Right.
you had it.
Right.
And I mean, like or Omicron, whatever. It's like the stuff that I see on CNN is saying, okay, yeah, it's more contagious, but guess what? It's less deadly.
Right. And maybe that's going to be what we're going to start to see. And maybe in 6 months that'll be, you know, given. It'll be old news. But unfortunately, the timing of this absolutely sucks for our soccer team.
Meanwhile, if Sarah is listening to this show right now, she's banging her head against the wall listening to me talk about COVID. But let's talk about some good stuff. Gene,
Yeah.
what did you think of the atmosphere at Subaru Park on Sunday?
I thought even all things considered that it was just as sort of enthusiastic and hype as the other games that I had been in. I think once people got into the stadium and into their seats, they were excited to see the game. They were excited, and sort of cautiously still optimistic that maybe the Union could pull it out. There was no lack of enthusiasm for the team that I saw in the stands or throughout the game. I mean, if anything, this game was, and it was partly because maybe we were we were in a pretty good section. Everybody seemed fairly engaged the entire 90 minutes. Didn't seem like there was I think you even commented at one point, you turned to me and said, I'm very proud of us that even after that goal at the 87th minute, you didn't see like 5,000 people just sprint for the exits, because it's the equivalent of, giving up like a 3-run home run at the bottom of the eighth. You're slight, on time. But yeah, no, everybody sort of hung with it, stayed through the entire game. I didn't see a lot of Union fans stick around to watch the celebration.
You gonna watch
We
that
didn't
shit?
we didn't stick around to watch the celebration.
Celebration? Come on.
But we did stick around until the final whistle, absolutely.
Of course.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't see a lack of enthusiasm. If anything, I saw a lot more, even more engagement than had been with the other games. And I really do feel like this playoff run has grown a sort of new crop, a more serious fan. I know that I'm going to be looking forward to and reading a lot of postseason stuff about the team. I'm going to be a lot more prepared once the season starts to be following really close from day one. So I think that if there's a lot of people like me that were looking for something to gravitate to sort of in this vacuum that we've sort of landed in the Philadelphia sports landscape. The other teams are to some degree, at varying degrees, a little bit depressing to engage with right now. Even when the Sixers were sort of on a run, the whole situation and drama just sort of makes you it's not attractive. The Flyers are literally a dumpster fire. I haven't seen sort of quite this much of a collapse for a team in a long time. The Phillies, we had some news, but they weren't playing games. And the Eagles, talk about, sort of an up and down 500 season.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, we're gonna get to them. I feel like it was Now, I haven't gone to like a ton of championship games or like major playoff games and stuff, but I mean, I would say that was like a top 10 sporting event that I've been to probably in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly, at least the atmosphere. I mean, you could feel the energy in the air.
It was a really positive, uber friendly crowd. Like everyone seemed like, as far as like Union fans go, there was like a lot of camaraderie. We had a great time talking with the people that were next to us, and everyone was really friendly. It wasn't too out of hand. I will say my one observation I took away was there was not one Eagles chant. That
was
I
another
heard
impressive thing. Yeah, another
at
impressive
Subaru
thing.
Park, and the games were going on kind of at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So the Eagles game ended probably around halftime
Yeah.
of the Union game. So I was really surprised not to hear one Eagles chant. especially after after we lost too. Then I was like, okay, this is when they're going to come out with the Eagles chance because
Right.
New York or whatever. NYC fans, they were, typical opposing fans to me. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah,
too out of hand.
I
I
had
didn't
heard a
think.
lot of negative stories coming in about how the rivalry is a little bit chippy. That sometimes when there's been other away when New York City has been in town other times, there have been some combativeness, but I didn't see any of that other than some back and forth verbally, but I didn't see any major. I mean, I've seen worse fights at day games at the Vet than I saw at Subaru Park.
Yeah,
But yeah, so
yeah. The problem for me is just I'm trying to really put myself in the shoes of a New York City fan,
mhm.
and like just I don't know. For me, it's like that no-win situation. It's like, okay, well, you won, so you were supposed to win
Right.
because I mean, like the Union were so ravaged with players being out, it would be embarrassing if you lost. But then if you lost, what an absolute disgrace this is. So it's like you can't lose or you'd be disgraced, but you can't be happy about your win because you're supposed to win. Like, how could you lose to
To a
that?
certain degree, I think that there should have been, and I mean, not even necessarily with the players, but I guess if you're a road fan, I mean, obviously your enthusiasm for having gone on a road trip to see the game, maybe it would have been, um, you would have been a little more enthused. But had that game been played at Yankee Stadium under these conditions, I would have hoped that there would have been sort of a little bit of a subdued celebration. I mean, that's absolute not. I mean, that wouldn't have happened.
I get it, but
But
I gotta say, Gene, even to like at a microcosm of this, when the Phillies beat the Rays, like I was over the moon. I was super happy. Phillies won the World Series. It's like my dream come true to see the Phillies win the World Series. Like so happy.
Mhm.
When the Eagles beat Tom Brady and the Patriots, I like literally wanted to just like rip my
Yes,
shirt off and
yeah.
like flip over trucks out on the street. Like,
Oh, I mean, it was slaying the dragon. It literally made an entire fan base feel exponentially more powerful, especially
right. So,
considering it was avenging a law, a literal avenging a loss of
but
the
my
Super Bowl.
point is like as a New York City fan, even for them, something was taken away from this event, it being held in the
Yeah,
manner that it was held.
right. Yeah, there was really no positive thing to be taken away from this except for maybe the programmers get the result that they want, and who wants to make those people happy?
Right. All right. So let's talk about the game we didn't watch
Yeah,
while we were watching the
I have
Union.
seen a lot of it at this point.
Yeah,
Sort of
yeah.
by
The advantage of us not recording on Sunday nights anymore.
yeah. So I have seen a lot of it, so I can at least to some degree intelligently make
But I mean, like, look, we're not an
observations,
X and O's show anyway,
and we haven't been for a long
the
time.
real story that came out of this is: do we have a quarterback controversy in Philadelphia? And
Absolutely, of course we
okay,
do.
thank you, Gene. We do have a quarterback controversy. Right? That's the level-headed type of analysis that we're looking for. Time is yours, Gene. Why
Yeah,
do we
well,
have a
I mean,
quarterback controversy?
here, and maybe I'm taking a little bit of a devil's advocate stance, but like to be
Sure.
honest, and this is not something that we haven't said on this show before. Do we know that Jalen Hurts is the man? I don't think that any of us, you, me, or Sarah, has ever just been like, oh no, absolutely, Jalen Hurts is the franchise quarterback, and it's unquestionable. I don't think that that's true. I think that if you watched, from what I saw of the game, and I mean, admittedly, I'm literally sort of coming into this blind and just sort of looking at statistics and
Yeah.
seeing highlights, but
Yeah.
I mean, he did appear to have a great command of the offense.
Yeah.
He made a lot of decisions. This is a guy that had no training camp, and we all know had no preseason. Preseason doesn't mean nearly what it used to, And, from everything I understand, especially in sort of the modern NFL, backup quarterbacks do not get reps during the year. You're sort of, certainly not anywhere near the level that you would need to have sort of gotten the mastery of the playbook that you would need to take over the starting job. But so he's doing a lot of this. It's a lot of it is mental reps. And I'll tell you the thing that excites me most about what I saw from Gardner Minshew, and it's something that I've sort of posted on my own social media, is my God, is his enthusiasm for the game of football infectious. I mean, this guy looked like, I thought that Bryce Harper and his dad had a good relationship. Gardner Minshew and his pop, my God, they take father-son bonding to like a whole other level. I thought they were literally going to like mosh, throw punches, whatever. Like there was just so much unbridled enthusiasm when he saw his dad after that win. That's sort of infectious, and that's sort of a hard thing to not find appealing. Now, do I think that when we, in next week, when we're the bye and then we're back against Washington, do I think that Jalen Hurts immediately gets removed from his starting job? Tough shit. I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily true. But here is where I'm at. I absolutely believe that we should go into next training camp. This is an open competition. This is an open competition. You need to be saying to Gardner, I don't know if you're saying it, behind closed doors or whatever. Hey man, we really appreciate what you did. You're going to have a chance to compete for that job. I really believe that should be the tenor in the quarterback room. And I think that that's important because we've seen that sort of thing can get into a guy's head. And I want to know whether, my quarterback is affected by the idea of competition. This is the NFL. There should be competition at the most important position in football. It's a luxury that the Eagles have had for a long time, that they have had good backup quarterbacks. It's sort of becoming a tradition to have a good backup quarterback. We won the Super Bowl with a good backup quarterback, probably the best backup quarterback in the history of the NFL. Bold statement I'm going to put out there, but how many other backup quarterbacks have a statue? Very few. So that's my take.
You don't think Steve Young was the best backup quarterback in the history of the NFL?
Well, I mean, maybe his backup career wasn't necessarily. Well, I mean, the same thing could be said for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it sure can.
So, but I guess both of them have won Super Bowls as well. Okay, fine. But did any of them beat Tom Brady?
Well, Steve Young was the Tom Brady of his.
Okay, fine.
So, okay.
I see. So I mean, there's the pro.
I see you quarterback controversy, Gene.
Yeah, there's the pro controversy side of the argument.
So, Gardner Minshew comes in. Although I heard him called on Sports Talk Radio today, Minshew.
I heard that too.
It's like a minotaur or something. Minshew. He comes in. And takes care of business against the Jets. I mean, what do you want, dude? So he came in. He did his job. He threw a couple touchdown passes. Good on you, man. That you did a good job for a backup. You did what you were supposed to do. You came in, took care of business. Thank you very much. Now, back on the bench. Acting like Gardner Minshew. I think a lot of people have this memory of him having like a great career with the Jaguars, like Jaguar great Gardner Minshew. He didn't take a team to the playoffs or anything.
That Jaguars team is awful. It's
all he did was take Nick Foles' job for a minute.
Well, and Nick Foles, unfortunately, I don't know that he necessarily played himself out of that job. It was sort of a combination of a fluke injury and I don't know.
We know what Gardner Minshew is. We know what he is. There's no ceiling. there's no like, what's the ceiling? Gardner Minshew's ceiling. We don't know. We don't know how good he can be.
He's Jeff Garcia. He's Coy Detmer.
He could be amazing. Like he could be the greatest thing. No, he can't. We know what Gardner Minshew is. We don't fully know what Jalen Hurts is yet. And look, we said, all right, going this season, let's see what we got. Let's see what the coach has. Let's see what the quarterback has. We'll give him a season. We'll evaluate. So Gardner Minshew's not going to play anymore this season.
I mean, unless Jalen
Hurts gets hurt, I don't think we're going to see any more Gardner Minshew. And if we do, he ain't going to be playing the Jets.
No, he'll be playing somebody that's in the NFC East, though.
He'll be playing the Redskins or the Giants, probably.
Maybe Dallas.
But and maybe Dallas. But, at the end of the day, I don't get carried away with it. Look, everyone's favorite player on football team's backup quarterback, right?
And I mean, very early in the year, when he was signed, when that move was completed, the first things I should have heard was just wait until Jalen goes down, and everybody's going to want the mustache to take over the reins.
Everyone's calling for Flacco too, right? Were people calling for
true.
Flacco at the start of the season?
In the preseason, yeah.
Yeah, where's he doing?
Very, very glad we did not end up with Flacco.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you're going to be look, honestly, do not want Gardner Minshew as your starting quarterback.
We have 3 first-round draft picks. Is the thing that you want going into the draft do you want to draft a first-round quarterback and bring that into the mix here, or are you good to go into the summer with these 2 guys?
Not really.
Because somebody's going to have to make the decision in the spring to be like, are we going to use one of these picks on a quarterback? And then what do? Then you may have then you have controversy when you bring in another. If you spend one of these first-round picks on a quarterback, by God, that guy they better be planning to play him. Don't burn one of those first-round picks on a quarterback that you want to be the backup.
I mean, I don't think they will. That's just my hunch. I think it's so convoluted as it is now. I don't. That doesn't make sense to me. I think you're probably going to roll with Jalen Hurts next year again. But then you got to start talking about, do you extend him?
Would you keep Minshew as the backup, or are you looking to move him for capital?
Capital?
Like, are you looking to move him for like a 4th-round pick in the draft, this season?
If we get a 4th-round pick for Gardner Minshew,
you'll drive him to the airport, right?
He gone.
Isn't that what we shipped for him as a 4th-round pick?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not worried about Gardner Minshew. He's just a backup quarterback for me. I mean, it's fine. He was an upgrade over Flacco. Like, that's all I can say. It's
absolutely he's an upgrade.
He was an upgrade over Flacco.
He's an upgrade over who was the other guy that we had for years? Nate Sudfeld. He's an upgrade over Nate Sudfeld.
I mean, look, if Hurts went down, sure, he's serviceable.
He'll win you a game.
He's doing. But look, I just want to see Hurts finish out the season. I think he's just more explosive. He's more dangerous. I just think that there's more dimension to Jalen Hurts, and I just want to see what he could do to finish out the season, because at the end of the day, it probably is going to be either the Eagles or the Redskins with that last playoff spot. I saw power rankings of teams under 500 that had the Eagles at number 1. So I think.
Well, and Washington plays Dallas this week. So we could be going into that game basically eyeball to eyeball. Yeah.
It's going to be. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be. They kept it interesting till the end, which is probably more than you could have asked for at the beginning of the season when talking about this Eagles team. It's like they're in the mix because the NFC sucks.
Right, but if the NFC is going to suck, you've got to at least make sure that you're in contention in the slog.
Sure.
Do you think that because Jalen Hurts had a particularly bad showing against the Giants, that it sort of has lent itself to more of this conversation? If he had come out and really lit up the Giants, do you think that there's any of this, or do you think it's just in the nature of being a Philadelphia fan that when you see a backup quarterback, you want him to start?
Well, because then you'd be talking about you're on a 4-game winning streak,
Mm-hmm.
and you just want to keep it. You just want to keep it rolling, and if it works, it works. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's the running game. I mean, like Gardner Minshew looked good because they have a strong running game.
And
He's
that's when
continued to
Jalen
be a strong
Hurts.
running
That's
game
when
this
Jalen
week.
Hurts looks good. Is when they have a strong running game. When
Wasn't
you
there
put
something
up
like we're only like the 15 since 1950 to have 5 consecutive 175-yard rushes? I don't know, some ridiculous stat like that. But I mean, if that's not there, Gardner Minshew, he's not in the conversation. Everyone's just like, shut up, like calm down. Calm down.
The interesting thing is, I guess it
Relax.
was probably yesterday afternoon. I was in the car and I had the midday show on WIP's midday show on. There's your free plug, assholes. I expect one in return. But they had done one of those fun Twitter polls, and it was who should start, Gardner Minshew or Jalen Hurts. Do you have any idea what the percentage would be? You want to take a guess? And this was near the end of the show, so it was.
Oh, well, it was Minshew probably 70%.
You say 70% of the audience said Minshew should start?
Yeah.
Is totally flopped. 68% said Hurts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, revolving.
And that was Monday afternoon. So that was when the most I think people are at their most fickle Monday afternoon.
Look at that.
Yep.
Yep.
68% said, and it was a lot of votes apparently. 68% said Jalen Hurts.
I'm proud of it. Was Nick Foles in there that took away that kind of split the Minshew vote?
Probably. I think if anybody was going to lose votes, there was going to be who should start, Nick Foles, Gardner Minshew, or where is Nick Foles right now? Is he still in Chicago?
I don't know.
Again, once he's not playing for the Eagles, he like slinks into obscurity. There's something about wearing midnight green that gives that guy superpowers.
Yeah.
We know what that means.
You know what time it is.
Move that elf.
Yeah. My wife's on it now. I gotta. Actually, I snoozed it, so it's gonna happen again in a minute. But, all right. Well, do we want to? Any more Eagles talk?
Just
bye week coming up, right?
Bye week. Is there? What do you expect the Eagles to make the playoffs at this point, or
no?
You think they split against the Redskins, right?
So I mean, like it's kind of like a loaded question. Do I expect them to make the playoffs? It's like, no, I don't expect them to make the playoffs. Can they make the playoffs? Yeah, sure. Is it like a 50-50 chance? Yeah, maybe it's like a 45% chance the Eagles make the playoffs.
That's basically what the math says. Is that they were a 38% to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I still kind of like don't trust. Like if it's a race between the Redskins and the Eagles, like I kind of I would trust Ron Rivera more than I trust Nick Sirianni. I would trust. I don't know. I don't know if I trust Heineke.
Would you rather have Heineke or Hurts? I mean, I feel like that's sort of almost
who's having
a
better season. Like I don't know. I think Heineke's probably having a better season than Hurts, but the Eagles' running game like makes up for so much, and I think maybe the defense. I mean, both their defenses are pretty good. I don't know. It's good. Those games are going to be good. I mean, they're going to be like competitive. We'll put it that way. Like maybe they're not going to be like the best football you've ever watched, but they're going to be two teams that are evenly matched, kind of scrapping it out. Like I wouldn't bet on those games.
No, and I imagine the line's going to be very close, and I think you'll see it. A point. -1. Depending on who's at home. So I'm excited to watch that game when they come back. I really hope that the Eagles get that win that game, because I do want to sort of stretch out the enthusiasm. I like a good playoff push. So, and make that Giants game, I think that they're going to play really well against the Giants the second game. I think you're going to see a very different team against the Giants when they're here in Philadelphia.
Boy, your lips to God's ears.
What do you think is this is another thing that I was thinking about. What do you think up until this point, what would you say is the worst loss of the year the Eagles have? Like what loss stings the most?
Well, the Dallas game was absolutely humiliating, but I feel like that was kind of always a loss.
Mm.
The Giants game probably.
See, I think the 49er game in particular, because we really did have a chance to win that game. I know it was early in the season, but man, just looking at the way this is sort of shaken out with the 49ers sort of being right here with us, it would be so nice not only to have that
Yeah,
win in the bag, but to have that sort of tiebreaker. Like if they had been running the ball then the way they are now,
I
they
know.
absolutely win that game.
I mean, could
There's
probably
no
beat the
doubt in my
Chiefs the same
mind.
way.
Yeah.
We do hold the tiebreakers over a bunch of teams that are kind of
I think we have the tiebreaker
in
over
there,
Minnesota.
like
We don't know.
Saints,
Yeah, Saints, obviously.
Carolina. I mean, Carolina's probably like Carolina and Atlanta are kind of out of it now, maybe.
Yeah, they both are.
But
I
there was
think
a time where we were kind of all there, and
a
the
bunch.
Eagles had a bunch of tiebreakers. But
Yeah, that Viking loss to Detroit. That's a bad loss. That is a really
oops,
bad loss.
oops.
They celebrated like they won the goddamn Super Bowl in Michigan this week.
Well, good for them. I mean, I'm happy for them.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I hope they win another game before the end of the year.
Fuck the
That'd be great.
Vikings. That's like another one of those like random teams that it's just like, if you're of a certain age, you hate.
Yeah.
If in Philly. All right. So you got your Sunday free, so you can watch the Timber.
Oh yeah, yes. I'm gonna watch the Timber absolutely annihilate NYCFC.
It's soccer,
I hope it's,
man. They're not going to annihilate it. It's going to be like 2-1.
I hope it's 5-0.
If it's 2-1, if it's 2-0, it's a blowout.
Yeah.
So yeah, good luck to the Timber. Hope they bring it home.
Let's go, Portland.
Flyers make some news. I think I broke out the Flyers hat for like first time this season.
Yeah.
On the show, and I got my martini going.
Sweet.
I didn't have a martini glass today. So
yeah, I mean, talk about. I mean, we all saw it coming. It was just a matter of like how long were we gonna, like how much rope were we gonna let this man have before we kick the stool out from underneath of him? We all knew he wasn't gonna make it to Christmas. Even though at Thanksgiving I was praising the hell out of the organization.
He's like, I'll be home for
keeping
Christmas. Don't worry.
Man, talk about egg on my face. My God. So are you? Were you? I mean, we're not really surprised. I mean, the Flyers are an absolute free fall. But do you think that this is going to help?
I mean, not really.
It feels like there is just something fundamentally wrong right now with that Flyers team, and I can't tell you what it is, but when I've watched them, they have not looked like they're the better team on the ice.
They fundamentally have too many injuries.
4 weeks, yeah. Well, that's true.
They have too many injuries. They look really slow.
Very slow.
They don't appear to be skilled.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I mean, they score 5 goals, but last night they lose anyway. What was that? 8 in a row or 9 in a row now?
I think it's 9 in a row now.
Devils are coming up next. Could very easily be 10. I just don't know where this is a division
where this is a division where you needed to stay on pace the whole year, and by putting yourself in this position, you've almost played yourself out of a playoff chance, and it's.
And if you're a gambler at this point, you just bet against the Flyers until they win.
Right.
It's the opposite of like that end of the season Cardinals run where you just bet on the Cardinals every night until they lose. It's just, I just don't, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel like there's a corner being turned. It doesn't feel like anyone's coming back to save us. We're picking guys off the waiver wire to just kind of shake things up and make something happen. I wouldn't want to walk in here as the next head coach right now and try to do anything. I mean, it really is a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
It really is. And
we saw it we saw like the collapse last season, and we all were like, well, that can't happen again. There's just no way that's going to be allowed under, as the Flyers organization. They don't do this.
Yeah, well, the team's very different than it was last year, and like for many years we just rearranged the deck chairs, right? Like it was like, okay, well, let's try this combination. It was like, well, let's shake up the lines, or whatever. Last year I felt there was some like major moves made to make this team look different this year.
I agree.
So it didn't work. It didn't work. So, well, who's left to blame now? Who's left to blame? You fired the coach. You fired the players.
I guess you got to blame Chuck Fletcher.
I mean, I guess so. I guess so. Unless you want to say, okay, well, we'll wait another year and see if these guys can come back healthy with a new coach and see what happens then. But like, what else needs to happen okay, we'll move the elf. What else needs to happen? There's no owner, there's no boss. What happens? What happens, Flyers? What do you do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Just tank for 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Even it seems like the other teams in the division are all getting better fast, not worse. You're lagging well behind the rest of your division. You're going to get buried, and you're going to get buried fast if you don't figure something out. And I don't know that there is some magic free agent that you could bring in and change this atmosphere. You're going to need to be able to find a coach that has the flying V or something, some sort of technique that has just never been heard of in hockey to sort of really make this. You all right there? Was that your third martini or your first?
Don't worry about me, Gene.
But that's the thing is, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Sarah can speak to this more intelligently than I probably can. But, what is a coach going to come in? Is there a coach that has ever existed in hockey that can come in and sort of reverse this sort of disaster? But this is the move that you make. This is the move that you make in hockey: is you fire the coach. How many Flyers coaches have we gone through? More than any other sport that I can think of.
Everyone's going to point to that that Blues run where they were just in the turlet and they fired their coach and Berube took over and they won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, well, we had Berube. We had fired Berube. That's why he was on the deck.
Them. That ain't you.
Yeah.
That ain't us.
Just like ain't the norm.
There's a bunch of other teams that are going to have their starting quarterback go down and say, oh, well, remember the Eagles and Nick Foles came in and they won a Super Bowl. That ain't you. That's us.
Right.
So don't look at these miracle lightning in a bottle teams and go, well, if they can do it, so can we. No, you can't. That was them. That ain't you.
And that's why it's called a miracle, because it doesn't happen all the time. If it was, if it happened all the time, you would call it that thing that happens, that normal thing.
Remember when we complained about the Flyers being average?
Yeah.
I wish the Flyers were average.
I miss average.
Average would be great right now. At least I'd have a 50% chance of seeing a win tomorrow night.
Hey, the other thing I heard is talks are going to start to heat up in the NBA about it. We're getting close to the trade deadline.
Oh yeah, Dame wants Ben, huh?
Dame can have Ben.
Oh, bye, Gene. Yeah, the Sixers got one out last night without the help of Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid looked like the MVP that he was last year. Hey, Gene.
I don't know why this happens every time. I guess it's like at the hour mark.
It's all right. We're basically done anyway.
Yeah. So,
but you wanted to talk about Ben?
I just want to ask: is
he's up to like over $6 million in fines.
Keep him coming, man. Like he literally, I don't like. If there's ever been a reason to fine a guy, this is the reason. Like there is nothing. Like why isn't he playing basketball? Like, I get it. You don't want to be here, but like, that's why they sign you to a contract. You sign the contract. Like, if you sign it, that means you have to play. It does and if you don't want to keep up your end of the contract, then you don't get paid. If I decide tomorrow I don't want to go to work, they're not going to pay me, especially if I decide I don't want to go to work for 3 months. There's nothing, and I'm not willing to get a note from my doctor that says this is why Gene can't perform his duties. I'm not going to go and work in the IT department at St. Joe's for free and expect them to pay me.
What?
Didn't Ben go and have practice with? Didn't Ben go and practice with St. Joe's Hawks and try to?
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so out of it with the Ben Simmons thing. Like, I just don't even really like.
I would.
I just want to be like, let me know when he gets traded.
I would just give me a serviceable bench player right now, just so that I don't have this albatross.
You can't do that, dude. You're pot committed now to your initial stance. You know.
Yeah.
You got to see this thing through. You're like both teams, but they're so dug in that they're like to a fault.
It's basically the World War I of basketball situations. We're in the trenches, baby.
Yeah, at the Somme.
Yeah, it's we're just gonna move inches every day until the Germans collapse.
All right.
Oh, and hey, baseball's over. So there will be no baseball talk until they return.
Baseball's over. Yeah, I guess not, right?
Literally, there won't be anything to talk about. We won't talk about baseball until they come back because nothing's going to happen.
I'd watch Scabs.
I was thinking about that.
I honestly would. Like, I love baseball so much. I would watch Scabs.
I wonder
I'm
what
gonna
that
go
would
to the
look
college
like.
and
Would
watch
Bobby
the
Bonilla
teams.
would Bobby Bonilla be implored to come back and finally put back on his Mets uniform? It would be a whole new meaning to Bobby Bonilla Day.
What's the college baseball schedule look like? When do they start?
I don't know, but I'm going to need a lot of it broadcast on Comcast.
We should be like
about 7:05.
We should go to like University of Penn games or something.
Hey, we could go to my alma mater. Wilmington University has a pretty solid Division III squad.
I was going to say DeSales University.
They probably had it.
I mean, we could do that too.
Yeah, that's just more of a hike for me.
Yeah, it's a bit of a drive.
Hey, by spring, we'll just have to be all in on the Union.
Nova, we could go to Nova. We go see Nova baseball.
Nova baseball, yeah, sure.
I'm sure all these teams are god awful.
Yeah.
Who's got a good baseball team around here?
How far is it to Rice?
We got to Haverford College.
Haverford, okay, sure, yeah. I might just come and watch your kids play. Is that weird?
Yeah. Well, you'd be all right. You want to coach a team, Gene? You want to sign us up for a team?
Yeah. Can you imagine? This podcast would have a whole segment based on our little league strategy.
And I'd be bringing up the spreadsheets.
Yeah.
We got the Moneyball team. I'm telling kids to tank the assessments.
Right.
Like, come on, I'll get you in a later round. All right, I'm gonna call it. That's all the time we have for today. We'll be back next Tuesday. Maybe Sarah will join us next Tuesday. That'll be.
I hope so. It'll be nice. Nice to have her
because
back.
We won't have any Eagles to talk about. It's going to be, I guess, all Sixers and Flyers. So.
Yeah, and Timbers.
Unless we start talking about like USA curling with the Olympics coming on. I was watching some of the USA trials this week in curling. So, oh god, how bad is Philly sports right now that I'm watching USA curling? All right, so we'll be back next Tuesday talking about all that fun stuff and whatever else we can dig up. If you haven't done so already, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Podadelphia. If you have any more time in your podcast listening day, be sure to check out the Whip Around for all the week's weird news. Also, check out the Painted Lines on YouTube and Facebook for wall-to-wall Philly sports coverage. Also, check out the Philly Sports Alliance on Facebook. If you just can't get enough Philly sports coverage, it's just all there. We have it in spades. What else? We plugging anything else, Gene?
No, I think that's
No.
it.
That's it. Until next Tuesday, have a great day at work, everybody. We are out of here.